Hello, I'm Amanda Jane Ogden and I'm going to show you how to do some lino cut printing today. I've got a few examples here of lino cuts that I've made in the past and I'm going to show you what I did with them. This is lino cut that's then been cut out and turned into block print, and I actually used that on a dress. I set myself a challenge when I first started out my small business to make a dress, and I printed it all around the hem on the front and the back with this exact print. This is done with a lino substitute, a soft material which makes lino cut printing much easier. And I used a mixture of printing with the rose and with the leaves to print and then scan a design and then get this printed on a tea towel. This is one of the tea towels that I sell. This one is on actual lino. It's much harder surface, and you do tend to get finer lines. I've got quite detailed lines in the feathers here. And this was used for a project on the inside of this bag here. So the bag is lined with silk organza and embroidery stitches, but underneath you can just see is black printing on the blue using this lino cut. To do lino cut printing, you need some cutters. I've got a few here to show you. Both of these are kind of old school ones. They've got lovely wooden handles, and all four of them, the idea is that they're held comfortably in the palm of your hand like this. And with each of them, there's a part at the top which you can unscrew to insert the blade, because you can have different sizes of blades for lino cut. So that one unscrews like that, and you take it out and you can swap them over. So I've got here a very narrow blade indeed, and a slightly wider blade, and that's two of several which are available. Here are some of the different kinds of materials that you can use. So like the lino cuts I just showed you, we've got different materials here. This is genuine lino, and it's got a hessian back, and that's very firm, very stiff. This is kind of a medium weight one. This is a synthetic, less firm than that, but this one is the softest of all. And all of these kind of materials are available for lino cut printing. You really do need a gadget like this. This is called a bench hook, and the idea of it is it fixes against the edge of your table like that, so that you can put your lino piece in like that and work against this piece of wood here. And that's so that the lino doesn't slip away from you, that you don't slip with your fingers or have an accident anyway. That's what it looks like, and it works either way on, whether you're left-handed or right-handed. It's a really useful thing to do and to have, and they're not expensive. You might know someone who could make you one of those. So you need one of those. You should have some plasters. If you don't do what I say, you might cut your fingers. Just warning you. These are brayers. These are what you need when you're going to put the printing ink onto your finished lino cut for printing. A foam roller won't do the job. You need one with a very firm rubber surface there like that. You need a tray to put your printing ink in. This is a rather well used cheap plastic one, but I've actually found it quite useful for lino cut printing to sometimes just use a paper plate, and then when you've finished you can just throw it away. There's nothing to wash. Some paper to print onto, obviously, and I've got some printing ink here. This is water soluble block printing colour, specialist colour. I have on occasions printed with acrylic. Now acrylic paint is great because it dries quickly. So for painting that's excellent because it dries quickly. For printing it's really not good because it dries quickly. So if you want to just have a try and you want to get some inexpensive acrylic paint to have a go, that's fine. But if you want to do it properly, you want to make several prints in a single session, I would recommend that you get block printing ink that comes in sort of in a paint tube like this, or you can get a bigger pot from a specialist supplier. So I'm going to use one of these softer pieces of pseudo lino because it's easy to cut, it's quick to use. I want to choose something that I can draw from, so I've got a few different visuals here. And the thing you have to remember with lino cut printing, it's like a block print, and I've got here a couple of beautiful hand carved Indian block print pieces. And where you can see the lines, the white lines on this one, that's the line that's going to show when you print. So you have to cut away everything except the line you want. So that's, you've got to kind of think backwards to what you would normally do with a drawing. So the line that you want, you leave on the surface of the piece of the material. And the bit that you don't want, you dig out. So, bearing that in mind, let's just make a start. So I want to fit my little lizard right onto the lino. So I'll take his head right into that corner there. And then his body curves round like that, and round like that. And then it's got a fantastically long tail that comes around like that. So put the other side in. So put my bench hook in like this. And when you lino cut, you must put your second hand behind your first. So if you're right-handed, it's like this. If you're left-handed, it's like that. You're going to put this one behind. So there's no chance at all, even if your hand slips, of you going from one hand cutting into the other, because this end is sharp. That's the whole point of it, to cut the lino. So I'm going to keep this hand really well back, and I'm going to kind of rest the hand I work with. And I'm just going to start by going around the outside of the shape I've drawn. So I'm not really going on the line, I'm going beyond it. And this is the fine cutter. And you'll see that I'm beginning to get curls of lino. When you're doing your first lino cut, just choose a simple shape and keep turning that piece of lino, which is what I'm doing here, so that all the time the lino is butting against this part of the bench hook. And when you've gone all the way around, so you've got your outline, I'm actually going to swap across to the lino cutter with the wider blade. I'm going to start to remove bigger chunks of the background, and this will show up as texture in your print. So you can either do what I'm doing here, which is just to cut the material away, just cutting in lines really. Or you can decide to actually do something a bit more creative. You might want to echo some of the weeds that there were in my original watery picture. So you might do some curved lines. So I've been working at my piece of material, and you can see, I think, how all the cut lines going out from the shape of the little lizard in the centre make the image quite dynamic. I've used the smaller blade for cutting between the toes, working out from the body outwards, and then I've used the larger blade to make these bigger, bolder marks, always cutting away from the body, because the danger would be that if I turn it that way around, I might cut into this shape that I want to keep in one piece for the printing. I've got a big pile of the scraps that have been cut out. Just a couple of things more I want to do before making the print. I'm going to use the fine blade to just pick out the lines that actually just reflected light, but I quite like the shapes that they make. We've got some lines here and some little spots. And then there are these poppy eyes at the head. If you're not quite happy with the depth or the width of the line, you can do a second one in the same place. I'm going to make a few spots by digging the blade in and just turning it around. So I'm actually lifting out a little circle of the material. So that will leave, hopefully, a little spot that's not covered with ink when we print, so the paper will stay white where I've cut this piece out. Around the eyes, I'm going to go almost on the line this time, leaving a bit uncut in the middle. When it's printed, the eye will print, the head round it will print, but this line should remain unprinted. The interesting thing about this softer material is that even though it's easier to cut, I find it's awkward sometimes to lift the pieces out. They don't come away as cleanly as traditional lino does. So to make the print, I've got my temporary print tray, disposable print tray, my lino cut, some paper, and the block printing ink. And I'm going to put some of that onto the tray. And I'm going to work it a bit with the brayer. I really want to work the paint before I put it anywhere near the print block. So I'm just going to keep it going to and fro for a bit. And I want the paint to be in quite a thin layer over my lino cut, because I want it to just be on the flat surface and not go into any of the lines that I've cut, so that we get the good contrast between the colour of the paint and the white paper. I've got some newspaper, I've got my old overall that I use for when I'm doing painting and dyeing, and I've rolled my sleeves up because it's very easy to get printing ink onto your clothes. So I'm rolling the brayer in the paint and then over the lino cut. And as you can see, the paint is on all the flat surfaces, those parts of the body, and it's picking up just little bits of the surface elsewhere. And then I'm going to pick that up and I'm going to print it on my paper. Now, if you're doing a whole lot of printing, what you can do is you can mount your lino cut onto a wooden block. Just use double-sided sellotape, and then it just makes it much easier to do repeat printing and things like that. You can handle it without getting paint. And there's our little lizard with all that lovely mark making around the edge that's come from the lino cut. So I've done quite a few prints now with the little lino cut, and you can see that actually they're all slightly different. That was the first one. The second one's always better. That's taken the paint much better because the lino cut's been covered by paint once. So I've got quite a few here. I can leave those to dry and then I'll cut them out. I might use them for cards or something like that. It's quite important to now go and wash the lino cut. You want to wash all of the ink off the surface and get it as clean as you can, so that you can use it another time with a completely different colour and you don't get any of this one that we've used coming through. Wash the brayer and get that really clean for the same reasons, and then that's a cardboard tray, so we can throw that away. So I hope you'll have a go at lino cut printing. It's really great fun. There's not a big outlay for the materials, and once you have a go, I think you'll be gripped by it.